Remember the night of the hack? Remember what happened to you?
All I remember is I woke up 3 days later.
And what happened in those 3 days?
There hasn't been anything like this in the past. This is going to be affecting our economy in ways that are extraordinarily significant. The FBI announced today that Tyrell Wellick and fsociety engaged in this attack.
Now a changing of the guard has begun.
People everywhere came to support us. And right now, they need to know we haven't given up, that we meant what we said about changing the world.
Round and round we go.
God's been changed more ways than one.
You not knowing what you did or didn't do. Our infinite loop of insanity.
I will follow my dreams no matter what.
I'm sorry, my dear. This is all in your head.
There's no order. There's no power.
There's more work to be done. Our revolution needs a leader.
Hey, thanks for being here, Carly.
Hey. Thank you guys for being here. I was saying outside, I was like, is anyone gonna come?
And I was like, you're on one of the hottest shows on TV. I think 1 or 2 people may show up for this.
Yeah, I was hoping.
You got your wish. All right, so Carly is here to tell us every single thing that happens in season 2. So 1, 2, 3, go.
Well, we all
Darlene,
turn into
hit
robots.
me.
And it's great.
But in all seriousness, your character, you play Darlene, a hacker who just doesn't give a damn. Your character, I think, had the biggest reveal last season. I think we can say what it was, right?
Yeah. I'm his sister.
Not Christian Slater's.
That's my dad. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. It was cool because, you know, everyone was so focused on Mr. Robot and if he was real and what was going on, and then it just, like, out of left field, just hit y'all with that.
When you signed on for the show, how much did you know of the trajectory of the first season?
I knew that I was his sister. You know, when I first walked in to meet with them, I was like with Sam, our creator, and Chad, our executive producer. I was like, Mr. Robot isn't real, right? And they were like, no. But you know, I in the pilot only have like one small scene, and so they, you know, he was telling me like about what happens, and is like, you know, that this is an important character and that I'm his sister, and kind of the general outline of what was gonna happen. But it's so different actually like reading the scripts because it's so vague of what we know. So it's definitely, it's fun.
What surprised you the most about playing her? Because I do think she's probably like one of the coolest character on the show. Like she's so, it's like you want to be her, but she's kind of terrifying.
Right. Yeah. You know, and this season I'm like could not be more excited for what's to come with Darlene. We really get to find out a lot more about her now that we kind of know who she really is. And you know, she has so many layers to her, and we really get to find out who she is and why she's doing what she's doing, and you know, everything underneath that badass, you know, fearless persona.
So it's a persona.
Partially. I think, you know, when anybody has that kind of wall up, there is so much more underneath that than, you know, people who are kind of real automatically and vulnerable. So we definitely get to see a more vulnerable side to her, as you guys saw, mental breakdown on the bathroom floor. And it's very, she's not very different, but she is different now and is much more militant and the stakes, I think, are almost higher in a different way. Because season 1 was very, all of this in a fantasy world of like, if this happens and wanting this to happen and, what can happen. And now that it did happen, we're really dealing with reality and what is going on in this moment.
What do you think drives her?
In a general way, because we do kind of learn more about that in this season, I think she's, she's someone that's lost, and this pulling off this hack is kind of all she has, almost. When you have something that you believe in so much, and it's hard to answer because I know. Yeah.
And I'm totally not trying to trick you, I promise.
No, I know.
I just think she's such a fascinating character.
She is, and it's so much fun to play her, and I mean even just like the wardrobe and everything. When I like do my hair and makeup and put on the clothes, it's like I just immediately transform into someone else that almost feels untouchable. And I think with season 2, that was probably one of the hardest things, is to, as it's crazy how much acting mimics real life, with so much stuff, but as being able to really find and allow there to be vulnerable moments, because she feels so untouchable, and like so do I when I become her, that it's hard to let your guard down in that way. And so we really get to see her guard coming down.
And another thing that I think is so cool about the show, and I read this in an interview with Rami, is that all of the code that you see written on the show is based in reality.
Yeah.
That it's not just random like exclamation marks or
Right.
at signs. How much do you have to prep to believably be hacking?
Well, I do all the coding. I'm just kidding.
For a second, I was like,
As it goes.
you paint
Wouldn't
and
that
you
be so
code?
cool?
Oh my God.
Before we started, I was like, I want to learn as much as I can, because hacking and that whole world was never in the forefront of my mind. And, so I bought like books on hacking and coding and was like, this is literally harder than learning German, because you're learning a new language, the language of a computer, and how to communicate with that. But everything is, I was just talking about this too, when we had a scene of doing a hack, and I asked Core, who programs all of the stuff, I was like, how long did this take you to do? And he was like, 3 weeks. And something that's on screen for 5 seconds, but in those 5 seconds, it's real, and people pause it and look, and it's, I think that adds to the authenticity of the show.
And the plot lines too. I mean, the medical records. I mean, just I have a friend who works in hospital records, and that's such a big problem.
Yeah.
Which of the plot lines has blown you away the most in the sense of it being stranger than reality or more accurate than reality?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, all of it. Like, I had no idea what hackers are capable of, and it's really terrifying if it's used in the wrong way, because everything, and it even scares me like putting this out into the world, but like anything that's connected digitally can be hacked. Airplanes, stock market, cars, there's in one of the episodes they hacked that car, and recently they on the news have been talking about people starting to hack the car fobs and getting into that stuff, and so it's really terrifying.
And I was just reading that if you have if you have email on your home computer, just assume that you've been hacked at some point, which is horrifying. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
no one would want to hack. There's nothing to be had. But imagine if you're a celebrity or a politician or someone in a position of power, to know that that's been done to you.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
How computer savvy are you in real life?
I'm pretty computer savvy, but at the same time, I kind of got hack-ish. It was a very confusing situation, but I, was on the phone with Apple, or there was another time my computer wasn't turning on, and so I called Apple and was like, the thingy is spinning and this.
The spinny wheel. Ooh, that's bad.
Yeah. And they were like, what's going on? And I couldn't explain it. I was like, I don't know. And then I was like, what? I should know these things. Like, I should be able to know what these things are. But I'm pretty tech savvy. I'd say, whenever people ask the cast who's the most, they always say me and actually Stephanie, who plays Joanna.
The ladies, damn right. Now I have to ask you about working with Christian and Rami. What is the set like? I mean, you guys shoot in New York, Brooklyn. But what is the set like?
It's amazing. I mean, Rami and I are in real life really like brother and sister. And we're all so close, which is such a blessing, because there are a lot of shows where the cast don't like each other or get along. And with how much we're together, it's so enjoyable to be with them. Christian is probably one of the funniest people in the world that I know. He makes me laugh more than anybody, which can be dangerous, because we're like about a film and I'm like crying. And Rami, and both of them are so talented, and working alongside people that talented just elevates your performance so much. And and Rami is amazing, and we all just have so much fun on set, which you probably wouldn't think.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because the show is so dark.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's so many moments where you're like,
it's not
just
funny.
brooding. So the set is, that's often what we hear, though, is that the darker the subject matter, the happier the set.
Yeah.
Weirdly.
I mean, we just, and especially Sam Esmail, who's the creator and he's directing every episode, he has such an amazing presence, and everything's always, no one takes themselves so seriously. Of course, there are those scenes where, we're like, don't talk to me right now. But, like Rami and I were just doing this scene the other day, and we were like walking into frame, and every single time before we walked out, we kept making each other laugh so hard, but it was like very serious. So we'd be like, and then like have to go out. But it's so much fun. It really feels like we're all like family.
And I do want to ask you about Sam directing every episode, which for those of you who don't know is incredibly rare in television. It's usually they direct the pilot and the finale, and then it's kind of farmed out to other people for the season. So what does that add? I'm sure a level of coherence, right?
Well, it's really crazy this year because in order for him to direct every episode, we have to film it like a movie. Which means we are doing it in 3 blocks, but in one day I'll be doing a scene from episode 9 and episode 1 and 3, and it's, normally you do 1 episode at a time, and so it's been really crazy, or we'll block shoot 3 scenes at a time, and thank God, like, Sam knows the story so well, so all the time I'm like, okay, what episode are we doing right now? And what just happened before this? Because I have no idea what's going on. And so it can be really tricky. And it's, the benefit is that we got to see all 10 scripts up front. But, it's weird.
Are you surprised in any way by how well the show's been received and how many people are watching it? Because TV's such a crapshoot, and so many great shows just fall by the wayside for whatever reason.
Yeah. It's crazy because, we all really believed in it and loved it so much, but like you said, like, you don't know how people are going to react. And so to see everybody else, like, mirroring our same passion for it has been, like a dream come true. You can't ask for anything more as an artist for people to have such an amazing response to what you're doing, that I feel like I still, like, don't get it. I don't know.
Well, you should get it, because it's true. Look at this. On a Friday, no less.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you, how did you get into acting? I know you grew up in L.A.
Mm-hmm. I grew up in LA. I never did one school play. I always played sports, which people, like, don't believe I'm athletic, but I am. But when I was, like, 11 or 12 or something, I did this play at Sleepaway Camp where I think I was like a waiter and had 1 line. And for some reason I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. But didn't do anything about it, but would always tell, like, everyone, I was like, I'm going to be an actress. And everyone.
Or your parents were like, oh.
Oh, yeah. Well, my dad is a doctor, and so he was like, excuse me? my mom, was always like, great, like you can do whatever you want, and like, why not you, And so when I was 18, I was like, okay, I should probably like just stop just saying it and do something. And, I didn't really know anyone in the business except one person, and it was kind of like one thing led me to another, who led me to my coach, Jonathan Slavin, who's also an actor. And he was like, I want you to meet my manager. And so I met with his manager, and he told her, he was like, just trust me and like do this. And then like my 4th movie audition and my first callback was for The Last Song, which was my first movie.
With Miley. I'll spare you the singing.
Yeah. And so, then my dad was like, okay, maybe you can do this. But it's so funny because he still is like, when the show came out, I was like, Dad, I think the show's gonna be like really cool, and like, people are really liking it. And he was like, okay. And then someone was like, oh, I watched Mr. Robot, and he called me and he's like, someone watched your show. And I was like, people are watching it, what do you mean? And he's like, oh, okay.
Well, maybe Darlene could go to medical school.
Yeah.
On the show, and then he'd be happy, right?
Yeah, totally.
Like, let's throw that out into the universe.
Yeah.
And then a little backtracking, you got Suburgatory, which
Where's
also
my
great
yays
reviews.
for that? Dahlia. Yeah, that was pretty crazy. I originally went in for Tessa, and then they said they wanted to see me for Dahlia, and I thought my agent was kidding, because me playing like this blonde Barbie, type thing I never expected, but it was one of the most fun things I've ever done.
It's funny, every interview I read with you from that time period is like, Carly is nothing like Dahlia.
Yeah.
It was the headline, literally. Like, if you Google it, it's nothing but that.
Even though people would always like still, or like be like, does she really talk like that? And I was like, one, look something up where I'm actually speaking. But like, no, I don't talk like, oh my God, like what? But it was so fun. It was so fun to be like blonde and have that just, I feel like I'll never play a character like that again. And so it was a blast.
And how did you wind up doing Mr. Robot? You just read the script and it grabbed you?
Well, I actually love this story. So they called Susie Ferris, who's the casting director, who I absolutely love, is like, we want to see you for this part. And so I went in and met with Sam and Chad and, and then tested and got it. And then later I found out that Chad and Sam were like, when Susie brought that, was like, you should see Carly Chaikin, they were like, absolutely not. You clearly don't understand what we want here. And it turned into like a whole thing, because they were like, she has blonde hair and is a Barbie.
That voice.
Yeah. And like, this isn't what we're looking for. And, she really fought for me and was like, just trust me and like, just wait and see. And so, I was like, so when I walked into that room, you guys were like annoyed and bitter that I was there. And they were like, yeah. But that's like I love, proving people wrong or showing them that, so it was cool.
Did you know right away that you had nailed it? Did you have that sense?
Kind of. I think, when there's so many, like it seems like, oh, all of a sudden all this stuff happened, but people don't really see the like 500 auditions you're doing in between. But I feel like when something's your part, it's your part and nobody else's. And and I just felt so immediately connected to her and just got her, and it really just sat right with me. Of course, still, you think that about characters and then they're like, you didn't get it. But, my fingers were crossed, and it was something I really wanted to do. After I read the script, I was freaking out.
Did you remember how you found out that you got it?
Yeah, my manager and agent and stuff called me, and I think I was like, oh, cool. And then like hung up and then was like, why did I just like respond like that? But I think I was like, so like, holy shit. Yeah. And then kind of like later that day was like freaked out.
And before we go to the audience, I want to change topics on you a little bit, and I know you're an amazing painter.
Thank you.
So, how did you get were you always painting as a kid?
My mom put me into art class when I was like 4, and so I was always, because she was an artist, so I was always kind of doing that, but I didn't really start painting until I was like 17, and it's something I've always just like done on the side, and recently people have started to kind of like find out more about that, which has been really cool, and you guys can check out my stuff on my Instagram, Chaikin Art. And recently I did a painting of the fsociety mask because we were collaborating with this store called Story. And so Alexandra Shapiro, who's VP of marketing at NBC, saw my paintings and was like, we need to do something with this. And so I told her I'd always wanted to paint the mask. And so I did a painting of that, and they ended up printing it onto shirts and backpacks and socks and all this stuff, which is like the coolest thing ever.
That's like surreal that you're on the show and then you're representing the show.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Would you ever do a gallery show?
Yeah, I had my first art show 2 years ago, which was, a dream come true, and I'd love to have another one, but it takes a lot to put it on, so.
You're a little busy at the moment.
Yeah, a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
And is there anything you can say tone-wise about season 2 that makes it different from season 1?
Yeah, I mean, it's very different because it's not like a rinse and repeat each season or like a procedural type show. We pick up season 2 a few weeks after the hack where we left off in season 1, and it's a continuation of that story. It's still crazy for me to think Sam has talked about we want to do 4 or 5 seasons, and there's an end to this story. And so with everything that happened in season 1, that feels like so much. It really is just a fifth of the story and just setting up the rest of the season. So.
But you have no idea how it would end, right?
No idea.
Okay.
So I know what happened season 2, obviously, but we all still are trying to figure it out. Like, we sit there and try and piece things together, and, after the finale last season, I knew exactly as much as the audience did, which is, like, crazy. So even still, we'll be doing something, and I'll be like, why are we doing this? Like, what does this mean? Or, like, how do I know this or something? And Sam's like, I can't tell you.
You just do.
Yeah. He's like, you'll find out later.
And now to our audience, please.
Hey, Carly, I love the show. I love Suits, and it just came on after when it started. It's great. I was going to ask you about the show, but you're funny, so I changed my question. Could you see yourself writing comedy or doing anything behind the scenes in the future?
Yeah, with one of my best friends, we have this sketch series called Literally that we write and act in. And I do a lot of writing and stuff like that, and I just wrote this short film that I'm directing and acting in and producing. I don't know who I think I am, but yeah, I love comedy and love writing, and so I do a lot of that and would love to, produce and make my own stuff.
Where can I watch this sketch show?
It's on Hello Giggles and also YouTube.
Next question, please.
Hey, Carly. I'm really obsessed with the show, so I can't wait for season 2. So I was wondering, what did you end up learning from season 1 that stayed with you and helped you in season 2? And what was it like shooting in Coney Island?
Coney Island is so fun. Before we filmed the pilot, I had always wanted to go there, so it was super cool going there. And it's interesting because I'm actually rewatching season 1 right now because I have no idea totally forgot. And it's really interesting to see my character and how different I am this year. And, it's like same in real life. Like, I've been living in this new world for so long that I forgot how I used to be, which is, like same in real life. And so having, and always the first season is always kind of you're still figuring it out and you're still like learning who you are. And so I think just having that experience of living in Darlene's body and stuff has really made coming back to season 2 like a lot easier. I don't know if that answers your question.
It's like, it's so funny because you can talk about it, but you can't talk about
Yeah.
it. So you have it down to a science.
We
She's evolved in
Yeah.
ways that are known to the audience in some capacity.
Yeah, I'm like speaking like gibberish.
Next question, please.
Hi, Carly. I don't know if you could, how much you could say. You wearing a shirt? Yeah, we went to Story before we came. But how's Flipper doing? Like, is she alive? Is someone feeding her, walking her? The dog, Elliot's dog.
Oh, Flipper?
Yeah, Flipper.
I don't know what's going on with Flipper. He's there though.
And last question,
He's not
please.
dead.
Hi. So, first I want to say that I discovered the show, like, it was probably maybe like 2 months ago when I was doing my finals, and it immediately hooked me in a way that definitely hurt my finals. Though what I was wondering was that the show really just questions this world we live in and society. That has it really changed the way that you look at society today? Like, not even looking at the show, but just being a part of it, seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that it's changed is the way I look at technology. And, you know, because we all know corporate America is corrupt and, like, everybody's just, you know, an asshole. And there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that we don't see, and it's all very calculated. But I think the biggest thing is it's really changed my view on technology, on social media, on how we interact with people, you know, and how we feel like we're so much more connected via Instagram, Twitter, all of those things, but in actuality, it's so much more isolating because there's no real human connection anymore. I know what you did for Christmas because I see your Instagram. It's not because I call you and I ask you.
Or you see the sanitized version of what, the perfect version of what someone did for Christmas.
Exactly. And so in that way, it's really kind of opened my eyes to like how little interaction we really have now. You know, if you're sitting on the subway or waiting for someone at the restaurant, you're always on your phone. 9 times out of 10, when I'm walking down the street, everybody's on their phone. And so it's made me very aware of that aspect of it.
Well, thank you so much. And when can we see the season premiere of season 2?
On Wednesday, July 13th, less than a week.
USA.
10 p.m. USA.
Thank
and
you.
we're doing a live show after starting at 11:30 with all of us.
For all you late night people.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Carlys.
Thank you.